We begin the news in America, where Donald Trump's former lawyer and fixer Michael Cohen, the key witness in the ex-president's New York trial, was sworn in Monday at the Manhattan courthouse. Cohen says he paid $130,000 to porn star Stormy Daniels shortly after Trump's 2016 election to keep quiet about a politically damaging sexual encounter. Now, the protesters or prosecutors allege that Trump falsified business records in order to cover up the arrangement.
I am ashamed because I know what Mr. Trump is. He is a racist, he is a con man, and he is a cheat.
Still in the country, Donald Trump says former Republican presidential candidate Nikki Haley was not being considered to be his running mate in the November election. Citing people familiar with the situation, a publication had reported that Trump would pick Haley if he were convinced. She could help him win the presidency, avoid a potential prison sentence, and cover tens of millions in legal bills if he loses. Haley, a former South Carolina governor and a former U.S. ambassador to the United Nations, had long shot challenge to Republican presidential frontrunner Trump in March. And according to advisors, Trump is in no hurry to pick a running mate. Now, joining me on the news to further discuss this is Otumba Olabode Oseni, a political and public affairs commentator. Thank you for joining me.
Thank you very much for having me.
All right, now let's talk about the factors you consider, or what would you consider the factors that Donald Trump, in choosing Mike Pence as his running mate in 2016, and how did this influence the polls in his favor?
Well, definitely, the way it is, 2016 is completely different from 2024. A lot has happened. Many things have unfolded. People have got to know Donald Trump more than what he portrayed himself to be in 2016. Most of the cover-up, most of the way and manner he chose to defeat Hillary Clinton had now come to open. And because of that, he has shown the kind of a person he is. And as we heard from his one of his used to be I don't want to use the word boy, Cohen. He already called him names, painted names, which an average American would say, well, it's going to be very difficult to have someone who did not know much about Donald Trump to wanting to pair with him in the coming election. So Michael Pence, I have no doubt in my mind that Michael Pence is a very nice person. He did not know much, but he already entered the agreement with to be his running mate. And most of what Mike Pence have to, stand for, he showed that he's not one of his boys, because during the collation of the final result of the election in 2020, Michael Pence said, look, I don't want to be used as a ping pong. So Michael Pence moved his own way and abandoned Donald Trump. So this time around, it's going to be we need to wait and see who is willing to cooperate with somebody like Donald Trump.
Now, let's also consider what role Donald Trump's running mate selection process in 2016 revealed about his priorities and decision-making style as a candidate, and how might this inform his approach in selecting a running mate this time around?
I just try to put everything together, but let me repeat what I was trying to say. Around that time, in all governance in different climes, usually incumbents stand to be challenged, and opponents or candidates that are standing against the incumbent, we usually want to come up with different kind of ideas, or what they are going to make that is going to be brand new, something that has never happened. They always find faults in the ongoing government. And that's what Donald Trump tried to do by coming with a different kind of slogan, make America great again, like America was never great. So he said so many things that attracted the ordinary people. And also, we should not forget that that this America does not mean that a large number of electorates are not red herring, they are not, they are civilized or they are informed. Many of them are not. So, and that is what happened while Donald Trump was able to get away with some of the slogans, and many people followed him. But we also see that most of what he stood for, I think his first or second day in office, he signed almost about 11 different bills. He doesn't want black, he doesn't want red, he doesn't want Muslim, all that kind of thing. Thank God, when he lost the election, Joe Biden reversed all that. So he has nothing again to say now than to continue to say, oh, my 4 years absence is this and that. So he wants to make America great again. Again, many people would say, how do you want to make it great again with all what we've done, or with all what we've seen, or what we heard about you?
All right, now let's quickly look at Trump's ongoing cases in court. How might a guilty verdict or acquittal verdict in Trump's criminal trial impact his political legacy, future, and also political ambitions? And I mean, the broader political landscape of the United States generally.
As of last time I checked, there's nowhere in the American Constitution that said someone that is jailed and is run and win election cannot govern. I'm not too sure whether there's anywhere in the Constitution of America. So the first part of your question is, let's say hypothetically that he wins, he will govern. What the method, because that's never happened before, but he will govern, whether he's going to govern from prison yet or whatever, I'm not too sure. But I believe that if he wins, he'll be able to govern. Now, that's going to the other part of it. The problem that is now starting at the American faces, it will be the first time that somebody who has been indicted, well, not yet convicted, has been indicted in almost about 90-something cases. That's huge. Nobody, no any American in history has ever been indicted so many times, and there's still many indictments coming his way, and the probability that he might be going to jail is getting increasing every day. So he stands to probably is going to be jailed at end of the time. And most of what he's asking for, that part of it that he was saying that he has the immune to do whatever he wants to do. Well, we are waiting for the Supreme Court of America to take a decision on that. The likelihood that they're going to say, well, look, you cannot do that, is also there. But because of the front runner for GOP, for a Republican, he might still get the nomination. And like I said, there's nowhere in the Constitution that says if he wins, he cannot rule.
All right, Otumba Oseni, thank you for your time on the news.
Thank you very much for having me.
All right, now let's keep you up to speed with the happenings in in Gaza, where we understand that Israel's leaders commemorated Memorial Day on Monday, a usual somber holiday that this year was almost entirely absorbed by the ongoing war in Gaza. At 11 a.m. local time, sirens announced 2 minutes of silence, and a formation of 4 fighter planes then flew over Jerusalem and the surrounding areas. Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu during the ceremony vowed once again to defeat Hamas, a promise he made repeatedly during Israel's brutal 7-month war with the militant group. According to the United Nations estimates, more than 300,000 Palestinians freed Rafah over the weekend as Israeli forces pushed deeper into the southern city. Meanwhile, Israeli Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu has described its ongoing battles with Hamas in the besieged Gaza Strip as a war of independence. He stated this in a speech during a ceremony marking Memorial Day in honor of Israel's fallen soldiers and civilian victims of attacks.
אנחנו נחושים לנצח במאבק זה. גבינו ונגבה מחיר יקר מן האויב על מעשיו הנפשעים. נממש את יעדי הניצחון, ובמרכזם השבת כל חטופינו הביתה. ניצחון שבעזרת השם יבטיח את קיומנו ואת עתידנו. מלחמת העצמאות שלנו טרם הסתיימה. היא נמשכת בימים אלה.
Let's also tell you that Israel battled Hamas in Gaza on Monday, including a far southern Rafah, despite U.S. warnings against a full-scale invasion of the crowded city and of the threat of post-war anarchy across the Palestinian territory. Clashes also raged in northern and central areas of the besieged Gaza Strip. Israel last week defied international warnings, including from its top ally, Washington, and sent tanks and soldiers into the east of Rafah, where some 1.4 million Palestinians had sought shelter. This had sparked an exodus of nearly 360,000 persons from Rafah so far, with the United Nations Agency for Palestinian Refugees warning that no place is safe.
كل التجار على الوسطى وعلى الدير فيش ولا واحد في رفح لا ببيع خبز ولا أكل كل الخدمات واقفة ولا في أي حياة نهائي ومواصلات السيارة ب 1500 شيكل غالي المواصلات كل حاجة غالية يعني لو واحد بده يطلع من رفح مش عارفين نطلع برضه السيجارة ب 130 شيكل الأكل أبو الشيكل ب 50 شيكل الشغل اللي كانت ب 10 شيكل ب 100 شيكل ولا في مصاري ولا حياة ولا شيء من السنة في الموت.
To discuss this, I'm joined by Foreign Affairs analyst Bolu Michael B. Bolu, thank you for joining me on the news. All right, Bolu, if you can hear me, what do you make of the current international or humanitarian crisis which has affected civilian population, including women and children in Gaza, due to continued Israeli airstrikes and rocket attacks?
Well, it's very unfortunate that the war is still ongoing. It's very polarizing and very frustrating for a lot of people across the world. In countries like Kenya aligning with Israel, as well as the USA in the fight against the Palestinians, whereas students in the University of Sussex are having an encampment in support of the Palestinians. So we see things happening across continents, and it's highly divisive. And from what we've observed so far, one would sense that it cuts deeper than just a war for a lot of people. It's a lot of people take this war personal. A lot of people are watching the kind of things that they're buying and ensuring that they have no links with Israeli companies and things like that. And day by day, people are dying and people are starving, and it's very unfortunate that up till now there's been no resolution to this war.
Now, since the first ceasefire and hostage exchange, several talks between the two warring parties for another ceasefire has not yielded positive results. What do you think is the cause of this?
Everything boils down to a lack of trust, and that could stem from, precedents, in the sense that, how has previous ceasefires been? What has it achieved? What is the motive of the parties involved? Probably, at some point in the previous ceasefire agreements have been breached, or some form of interest or foreign powers or many parties being involved can lead to, stalling ceasefire agreements. Like we're seeing as well in the Sahel, specifically Mali, with the Tuareg people and the government, when they had many parties involved, they had to resort to the status quo, and there was no way forward. And we are seeing that repeating itself in this crisis between Israel and Palestine. Many parties getting involved, international influences, and lack of trust. So I think everything boils down to one major thing, and that's lack of trust.
All right. Now, how significant is Egypt's decision to join South Africa in the ICJ case against Israel? And how does Egypt's involvement in the case affect the dynamics of the conflict and the peace negotiation facilitated by Egypt?
Well, it's very significant because Egypt has found itself as an accidental part in the war, in the sense because of their geographical location. they are quite close. There's a close proximity between them and the Palestinian territory as well as Israel. And I'm not surprised they're taking the sides of the Palestinians, because even since the biblical times, Egypt has not really been a fan of Israel in most cases. However, in terms of conflict dynamics, it does strengthen Palestine's position as being an independent state, to be an independent state. However, it weakens Egypt's capacity or local standard to be a mediator in the case, because the law will say nemo judex in causa sua, which means that you can't be a judge in your own case. So Egypt will no longer be a fit or a reasonable mediator in such a case any longer. I mean, that's the impact in terms of conflict dynamics.
Bulu Michael B., thank you so much for your time on the news. Good to see you again.
Pleasure. Thank you for having me.
All right, we'll go on a quick break. When we return, we have more stories. Stay with us. Still talking conflict, but this time in Europe. Ukraine's new Security Council chief, Alexander Levchenko, says a reshuffle in Russia's security apparatus suggests that the Kremlin is preparing for a long war in Ukraine and standoff with the West.
Військові, за їх доповідями, готові до відбиття, ведуть важкі бої, але росіян дуже багато, достатньо багато.
А про яку кількість ми говоримо?
Понад близько 50 тисяч було на кордоні, зараз наступають набагато більше 30. А це говорить, що Путін планує війну на довгий період вперед. Причому війну не тільки з Україною, а й з Заходом в цілому. Війну з НАТО. Він ставить на чолі Міністерства оборони людину, обізнану в функціонуванні мобілізаційних систем.
Away from that, British Prime Minister Rishi Sunak says he is confident his ruling Conservative Party can win general elections expected later this year, despite trailing the main opposition Labour in polls.
Now, at some point in the second half of this year, we will all go to the polls and make a choice. Not just about Conservatives versus Labour or Sunak versus Starmer. It will be a choice between the future and the past. Now, I remain confident that my party can prevail, not because of our record alone, but because we will be the only party really talking about the future. And not with vague, lofty platitudes, but with bold ideas and a clear plan that can change our society for the better and restore people's confidence and pride in our country.
Let's also tell you that Britain's King Charles III officially handed over the role of Colonel-in-Chief of the Army Air Corps to Prince William on Monday in a rare joint engagement with his elderly son and heir. The head of state joined William at the Army Aviation Centre in Middle Wallop, southern England, appointing him Colonel-in-Chief of his youngest son, Prince Harry's old regiment. The 75-year-old monarch's decision to hand the role, which he held for 32 years, to William, 41, was seen as a snub to Harry when it was announced last year. Harry, 39, is a former Army captain, served as an Apache helicopter pilot with the Army Air Corps in Afghanistan. But he has become estranged from his father and his brother since leaving the royal family in early 2020 and moving to the United States with his American wife, Meghan. Meanwhile, some 1,000 protesters stood firm in the center of Tbilisi, vowing not to back down in their fight against a Russia-styled foreign agent bill a day before it is due to be adopted. Now, with riot police lining the streets behind Parliament, leader of the opposition party, said they are protesting because they support their country's European future.
So we are not only protesting like throughout the day or like Sundays or Mondays, but where we can stay here whole night because we support our country's European future. We need to gather here again, and we opposition will be inside of the parliament tomorrow for the plenary session, and we will try our best to protest this law from plenary session, from parliament hearing. We see that police is behaving illegally out of any law, any rules and regulations. They are like using face masks so nobody can identify them, and this is completely against law. And we have seen several cases how they beat it like peaceful demonstrants. And
Naomi Osaka's run at the Rome Open has been ended at the last 16th round by Zheng Qin. The four-time Grand Slam champion fell 6-2, 6-3 to the 7th seed Chinese star. Osaka was playing at the Foro Italico for the first time in 3 years after taking a break from the tour to have a first child, and is currently ranked 173rd in the world. The furthest she has gone in any tournament so far this season was a run in the quarterfinals in Doha, which she could not replicate in the Italian capital. And that's all on the news at this time. Don't forget to send in your eyewitness report to the WhatsApp number on the screen. You can also follow us on social media. We are at News Central TV. You can watch us live across these platforms: DSTV channel 422, Star Times channel 274, Avo TV, and YouTube. Many thanks for watching, and Dakwo.